What if one of the most famous religious dietary rules in the world was all based on a single misunderstood word? Well, today we're jumping into a fascinating linguistic puzzle that suggests just that. We're going to take a closer look at the original language of the Quran, and it might just change the entire picture of a rule that so many people believe is absolutely set in stone.
All right, so let's start with the big question, right? One that seems to have a super simple answer. Is pork forbidden in the Quran? I mean, for millions of people, that's an easy one. The answer is an immediate yes. It's probably one of the most famous dietary prohibitions in all of Islam.
And yeah, that traditional answer is exactly where we're starting. But what if that common understanding, the one we all know, is based on a translation that kind of misses the original point? This is where the puzzle really gets going. It's a linguistic argument that's been hiding in plain sight, and it suggests the prohibition was never about a specific animal to begin with. So, where do we even begin? Well, it all boils down to one single word that's at the heart of this whole debate: khinzir. We've got to unpack what it really means, where it came from, and how it's actually used in the text. Okay, so on one side, you've got the standard translation we all know. Khinzir means pig. Simple enough, right? But here's the other take, the one based on a deep dive into the language. It argues that khinzir isn't an animal at all. Instead, it's more like an adjective, something describing a state or a condition, like being polluted, rotten, or corrupted.
And the case for this gets even stronger when you start looking at this whole web of related words. See, khinzir is linguistically linked to kanajiri, a word that means corrupted, and its root letters, they point to things like stinking or maggoty. And get this, there's even this fascinating parallel in Yiddish, where the word khazare means junk or trash. It all clicks into place when you see the plural form used somewhere else in the Quran, where it's not talking about literal pigs, but about morally corrupted ones. Okay, so we've been looking at the word itself, right? Up close. Now let's zoom out a bit and look at the actual sentence where it shows up. Because this part of the argument isn't about ancient word roots. It's about pure, simple logic in the grammar. And to make this crystal clear, think about it like this. Imagine you're listing ways to get from, say, London to Edinburgh. You'd say by plane, by train, or by bus. It would sound really weird if you suddenly said by plane, by train, by BMW car, or by bus, wouldn't it? That specific brand just feels out of place. And the thinking here is that a divinely perfected text just wouldn't have that kind of awkward little hiccup. And that's exactly the kind of thing these scholars are pointing to here. When the Quran lists forbidden foods, you get dead meat, running blood, food dedicated to something other than God. See the pattern? These are all broad categories. They can apply to any animal. But the traditional translation wedges one very specific animal, swine, right in the middle of that list. But if you translate it as polluted meat, well, that fits the pattern perfectly. It's just another general category.
So, okay, if the prohibition isn't about the pig itself, then what is it about? This is the really cool part, because the text actually seems to give us the answer directly. Right after listing what's forbidden, the Quran explains why. It says they're forbidden because it is impure. The Arabic word is rijsin. And that is the key. The text is literally telling us the problem isn't the species of the animal, but the condition of the meat, the fact that it's contaminated. And this is where the idea really connects with our world today. Think about something like mad cow disease in beef. That would absolutely fall under the category of polluted meat, right? And on the flip side, what about pork from a pig that was raised in a totally clean, hygienic environment? Well, under this interpretation, it might not be forbidden at all. Suddenly, the focus shifts from a blanket ban on one animal to a much broader principle, avoiding unhealthy food, no matter where it comes from. And this all makes a lot more sense when you look at the history. Back in 7th century Arabia, when the Quran was revealed, pigs weren't the clean farm animals we might picture today. They were often scavengers, living in really filthy conditions, so their meat was a genuine health risk. They basically became the poster child for polluted meat. And the argument is that over time, people started confusing the symbol for the actual substance. Now, as you can imagine, an idea like this doesn't just stop with one type of food. It has a ripple effect. It naturally makes you take a step back and look at other dietary laws and customs that have been built up around these ideas. And that leads us right to another huge topic, the whole concept of halal slaughter. I mean, if the real focus is on ethics and health, not specific rituals, then what does that say about how animals are supposed to be prepared for food? When you look at the text, the focus seems to be on what you shouldn't do.
It actually lists cruel methods to avoid, like strangling or beating an animal. But what it doesn't do is prescribe one single required way to do it. And here's the kicker. It explicitly says the food of the people of the book, Jews and Christians, is permissible, and they don't follow Islamic slaughter rules. So all of this suggests that many of the super detailed rules we now associate with halal might actually be human additions from later on.
So really, the big takeaway from this whole perspective is a major shift in focus. It's about moving away from a strict list of rituals and man-made taboos and moving towards a set of core ethical principles. Things like being grateful for your food, making sure you prevent cruelty to animals, and, of course, avoiding anything that is genuinely harmful or polluted. And as we start to wrap this up, there's a powerful quote that just seems to capture this entire argument perfectly. The letter kills, but the spirit gives life. It's really a call to look beyond a rigid, word-for-word reading and instead to search for the deeper wisdom, the spirit, behind the guidance.
And that really leaves us with a final question, something for you to think about. When it comes to reading any sacred text, in any tradition, what do you think matters more? The exact, literal wording, the letter of the law, or the ethical principles and the deeper meaning, the spirit behind it?